celebration, aka my moment to pour into women, to encourage, to empower. I thank you for rocking out with me. Today is the last day, day 4, the very last day. So I thank you so much for rocking out with me. I thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me this week. And for those that have purchased my book, those that are going to purchase the book, I say thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm so, so honored. And so excited about this particular book. I always say, You Are the Fragrance is the sequel to my book, Church Hurt. Um, if you're wanting to grow in a ministry, if you're wanting to grow in church, this is the book to get. I'm not just saying it because it's my book, it's because I have been the person that has left the church. I have been a person that's been a member of the church. I've also been the pastor's wife, as well as if you are a pastor that has transitioned from pastor wife to pastor. I also talk about that. If you are in staff, you definitely want to get this book. So I have discussed this book with you for the last 3 days, and I want to know from you, just a show of hands, are you going on this journey with me, or have you learned some things just about, not just about the pastor's wife, but about an individual period, about yourself on this journey? Just show of hands for those of you that have said, I done learned some stuff. Last night was awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank y'all. Last night it got hot in here. Yes, but I believe it was some great conversation. You had to be on last night to get some great conversation, great dialogue, and I pray that this call will be the same way. In this book, I tell people all the time, it is designed for women as well as for pastor wives, but also women as well. And the reason why I say it's designed for women because of the topic that I'm about to talk about right now. I always say, and I think I learned this, I don't know who I learned this from, but I learned it from someone, is that, if you want to hide the best secret, hide it in a book. You know what I'm saying? If you want to hide something that you don't want people to know about, hide it in a book. I will tell you, there are so many secret sauces to understanding ministry, especially if you are in staff, understanding ministry, especially if you are with a pastor. And what I tell everybody, those of you that know what I've been saying, there is a after my name. Can somebody say it? There is a
Comma.
comma after my name. Thank you. There is a comma after your name. You are not just the wife. You're not just their mother. You're not just a woman. There's so much that's in store for you. And so at the end of this book, the juicy part of this book is today's topic, which is their turning your pain into purpose. In my last mentee class for all the pastor wives that joined me, I showed them in 3 months how to turn their purpose into profit, to where they were able to turn their pain into purpose, but also into profit, to a way to gain access to some benefits that is available to everybody. And it's one of those, whosoever will, let him come. As I said yesterday on last night, hey, the Israelites were in prison for 40 years. They could have gotten there in 40 days. That was the goal. That's the way that God wanted them to do. He wanted them to get to the promised land in 40 days, but it took them 40 years. And so I say to you, as I say to others, listen, it's your choice on how quick you want to get there, but there's some things that God has lined up for you. There's some things that are designed for you. And there's some things that you have that God has equipped you with. And I'm going to show you at the end of this how I learned how to turn, and I'm not going to record that part because that's something I show with mentees or in my private classes only, is because everybody don't understand it. But I pray that you on here tonight that have joined me and ready to rock out with me with a couple of things that I'm going to share is turning your purpose, your pain into purpose. So many of us have experienced pain, show of hands. So many of us have experienced pain. So many of us have went through pain. So many of us have hurt. So many of us have cried. We've all went through it. This is not to pull on your emotions, but it's life, right? It's life. This is what we've been through as women. But here's the thing, is that I talk about in this book, there's a part that I discuss, and I talk about how Paul was so busy talking to, in every chapter is really what you call a transition. So if you see my book, I don't call them chapters, I call them transition. So you transition to the first transition, the second transition, because this is the thing with life. Life is a transition, and it's up to us to be able. It's up to us to get in the car seat and ride on this transition. It's up to us to allow God to be the driver. And we get in this car. There's a oh, come here, glory! I felt the glory of the Lord right there. There is a vehicle to your destiny. Can somebody write that down? There's a vehicle to your destiny. It's up to you to ride on that vehicle. It's up to you to get off on the vehicle. But I come to encourage you through this book that you have an aroma about you that God has given every individual. He has given us a unique gift. And I asked y'all this question last night, but I'm going to ask y'all after I stop recording. Is that a gift that we all have to be able to identify who we are in the earth? There's a gift about you that God identifies. There's an aroma about you that God identifies. There's something special about you that God has gifted in you. I don't care what you've been through. I tell people all the time, best book I've ever read in my life and movie I've ever read in my life and saw, but the book is way better, is the book called The Shack. The oh God, The Shack. I forgot who it's by, but it's called The Shack. The Shack changed my mind and my life when it came to religion. It changed my mind and my life. Why? Because it allowed me to see through the lens of this particular woman that was in the book, that was the role, that was playing the role of God, and how God did not judge anybody that was in the house. There was different kind of people that was in the house. You got to go read the book. It's so good. And if you watch the movie, you got to see it. It was so good because it reminded me, and there was a part in the book where Jesus was in the kitchen, God was in the kitchen, and while he was in the kitchen, Jesus was listening to rock and roll music. And the guy asked him, "Hey, isn't that's you're not supposed to be listening to that? You're a Christian." And he literally said, God said to him, "Isn't this my child? Mess me up." Just that one little part messed me up, because I realized that at the end of the day, everybody has something unique and something different. Does not mean you're going to do it in the four walls of the church, but I will tell you, a lot that I've learned is because of the four walls of the church. I hope that makes sense. It's because of the church that I've been groomed and I've learned, I've grown, is because of church. And I'm not saying it because I have a church, but I'm saying it because I quit church and I went back. Yeah. Quit church and I went back because I found out that that was my foundation, was to be around other like-minded movie. Thank you so much, Natasha. Yes, that's it. Great book. I like-minded people, and it allowed me to grow and glow. So here's the thing I'm going to talk about. And I'm talking about turning your pain into purpose. And as I said, I wrote this in transition because what happens in our lives is that we go on this transition. Everything that you do is connected to your daily routine. Your destiny is connected to your daily routine. What God has you doing today will be connected down the line to your daily routine of what you're called to do, what you're designed to do, and what you're supposed to do. Will every day be peachy and cream? No. I'm the girl to tell you, you're gonna cry, you're gonna want to quit, you're gonna want to throw in the towel. But I also tell you the benefits of staying, and we'll talk about it. I'm not gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about it. So the question is, and this topic is about turning your pain into purpose, and this is one of the chapters, transitions, in my book, which is transition number 7. Come here. So transition number 7 that is in my book, 7 means completion. Come here. 7, there's 9 transitions that I have in this book, and there's a reason why I have 9 in the book, but you got to read the book to see why I have 9. But I have, in this transition number 7 transition, I realized as I was writing this, is that as I'm talking about Romans 8:26 through 30, write that down, read it at your own time. I'm going to read a snippet of it, but it's Romans 8:26 through 30. And it says, in the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. And he who searches our hearts knows that our mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God. And we know that in all things, See, we know that part. We know all things work together for the good of all, but we forgot about the first part of that. That there's gonna be some weak moments, there's gonna be some groaning moments, because we gotta realize that through those groaning moments, it's gonna work for your good. No matter what it looks like, it's gonna work for your good. So the things that I talked about in this particular transition was number one. Y'all know I'm a principal girl. Number one is, how do you turn your pain? How do you get to a point to face your pain? This is something I teach with mentees, is facing your pain. You got to be willing to face your pain. You got to be willing to look at your pain in the mirror and take a look at it. And in Romans 8, this is where Apostle Paul is talking to the Romans. He's telling them, he's reminding them of the condemnation of those who are in Christ Jesus. I believe he knew, this is the part that I write in the book, I believe that he knew that we would need the assurance to know that many would experience things that would make them want to walk away from everything, including him, including God. In verses 26 through 30, Apostle was encouraging the Romans and us for today that will be fulfilled with troubled days. When he said, in the same way, the Spirit also helps our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we should, but the Spirit of himself intercedes for us. And he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for us. Paul is letting us know by simply pointing out that God hears our groaning and intercedes for all the saints, even though we may not know. Have you ever been to a point where you ain't even know what to pray? Am I the only one? Show me your hand. Have you ever been to a point you didn't even? I'm in a point I don't even know what to pray for. What am I praying for? But I just know right now I'm hurting and I feel stuck and I feel stagnated. Right? I feel stuck, I feel stagnated, and I really don't know what to pray for. And so in this, I was letting the readers know that you got to be able to be like Paul was trying to tell the Romans, is that okay, face your pain, deal with your pain. And the only way that you can deal with your pain, and there's three things that I talk about in this book. I talk about number one, in order to face your pain, you got to pause for the cause. You got to pause for a second. You can't keep moving. You got to embrace what happened and when it happened. Until I learned how to embrace what was going on with me, as I always state, my testimony of 2015, until I could embrace the fact that my life was totally different after going to the doctor and learning that my kidneys were bleeding. Okay. Yeah, I had to embrace that. I had to embrace the fact when things went on in my ministry, in my marriage with my children. I had to embrace that. Every time something went on, I needed to embrace those moments. So how do I embrace those moments? I gotta pause for the cause. I gotta pause for the cause, because what happens is, if I don't pause, my emotions are going to either affect somebody else or it's going to affect my next level. And my response will be totally different if I do not pause for the cause. So I talk about the importance of pausing for the cause. The next thing I talk about, number two, is breathing. I talk about breathing. I talk about breathing steps that I take even now today, y'all. There's some things that I do right now in this book today. I breathe in slowly through my nose and I count to four. Yes. I do it with my church without even knowing it. I don't even know. I'll be doing praise and worship. And those of you that's in praise and worship. But anyway, I'll be in praise and worship and I'll just say, okay, y'all, for a minute. Before we even go into praise and worship, I want you to just breathe in. So Celine, you have you ever heard me do this before? Breathe in. All right, breathe out. And the church would do it with me. And you can feel the release spiritually that happens in the church. The next thing I do is hold your breath for four counts. Now breathe out through your mouth for the fourth count. Now do this one more time. So this is an exercise that I'm having you do in the book so that you can learn the power of breathing. So why do I do it that way? Is because when you take the time to just pause and breathe for a moment, in the medical world, this is a way of reducing stress, anxiety, and pain. This is a method that has become more common as people in the corporate world they incorporate it into their daily life. Some people call it meditation, and other people do yoga to learn how to breathe. For me, this breathing method I learned from Lisa Nichols during a master class and has become my new normal as a pastor's wife. I went to one of Lisa Nichols. If you don't know Lisa Nichols, she's amazing, amazing coach. But I went to one of her events, and at this event, it changed my life. One of the things that she asked, and I encourage my women, and I encourage anybody to take a moment. If you do it on yourself, but you do it with someone that you know can hold you accountable in front of that person, is that if you really knew me, you would know dot 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 dot. It was life changing for my entire women. Because think about it, if you really knew me, you would know, and you let everything out in that moment. If you really knew me, you would know that A, B, C, D, and A, whatever. And I had women say, if you really knew me, you would know I don't even like myself. It was so therapeutic for my women in my church that we had a moment. And here's the thing, not only do I learn to pause for the cause and breathe, but this is, I know we're still getting the purpose, because if we're not together, we can't really do purpose, right? So one of the things that I also told my women was that, listen, when you cry this time, I put up every tissue. Sister Lee, was you that in? I don't know if you was there, but I put all the tissue up. No tissue, let every tear fall. You know what we try to do? We try to hurry up and let me hurry up and dry these tears because I'm gonna be okay and everything's gonna be good. No, 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 no. Sometimes it's good to let them tears fall because it's healing for your soul. So taking the time to pause, taking the time to breathe, and even in those breathing moments, you got to be willing to, number 3, reflect. Reflect on the good, the bad, and the ugly only for a moment. And when we learn to reflect on the good, the bad, and the ugly only for a moment, we're able to allow ourselves to embrace our pain for a moment. I didn't say stay there forever, but for a moment, you can embrace your pain. But the next thing I definitely talk about is not just how to face your pain, but how we get to a point. There's another part I talk about in there is I take you on the journey with that one. It's not just facing your pain, but after you learn how to face your pain, now you learn how to turn that pain into purpose. You learn how to turn that pain into purpose. And I teach 3 methods all the time. And if you've heard it before, but it's something that I teach a lot, is that when you become committed, and that you becoming committed to your purpose, committed to what you're called to do. Now others around you will become committed, but you got to become committed first to your own purpose, to whatever God has for you. And I'm going to show you the purpose here in a minute. But the second thing is that you got to become, after you become committed, you become consistent to your purpose. When you are consistent to your purpose, others will become consistent to your purpose, to their purpose. Now, when you become committed, consistent, and then you can build your confidence is built. So, what does that look like? When I became committed, I started a women's ministry in 2010. And in 2010, starting that women's ministry, I became committed to that ministry and I birthed it out in 2011, right? So I became committed and I showed up, and my commitment was to God and not the people. Then I had to learn to be consistent. So whatever I put in place for these ladies to be at, which is every second Wednesday that I meet with my ladies at my church, I became consistent with them. They know no matter what, I'm gonna be up there and I'm gonna show up to you second Wednesday of the month, right? So I become consistent. Guess what's gonna happen? They're gonna come consistent. Can I show you some more? Let me go a little bit deeper. I was committed to you for 4 days. Let it preach. And guess what? Because I was committed, what did that make you? Committed. Because you've been here. Some of you weren't able to make every day, but you showed up because you knew I was going to be here at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time, right? So I become committed. Do you see what your commitment could do for others? So you're committed. Now they become committed. Then you get consistent. And you be consistent whatever you do. Now everybody else around you will become consistent. Lastly, it builds your confidence, because the more you use your muscle, and that gift and in that purpose that God has given you. What I tell you last night, your gift is what you do at ease. It's you do with the least amount of effort. Your gift is what you do with the least amount of effort. Now, will it take trial? Will it take tribulation? Will it take pain? Will it take hurt? Yes, it's going to take all that. But it's what you do with the least amount of effort. I've been bringing women together. You guys, my birthday is June 22nd. Let me tell you, since I was 12, my mama, they laugh at me because ever since I was 10, 11, I was throwing my own birthday party. They look up and I got the whole crew from Huntsville, what it's a city in Texas. Got a whole crew from everywhere else coming to my birthday party because I didn't throw a birthday party because I wanted to bring everybody together. Right? It was a gift that I got to bring everybody together. So as I got older, I started hanging out and having girls' day, girls' trip, everything with my girls. We always going out. I'm going to put something together. We going to make it work. And I still do that in ministry right now. A lot of places I took my women, I've already been with my girls on girls trips. So hopefully one day my girls trip, baby, I want to go to the DMV, whatever it's called. I just want to do a whole girls trip. So that'll be a whole nother thing for another time. Don't play. Look up 2023. We be going. You know what I'm saying? It's been in me to bring women together, and at the same time I didn't like them. Don't mean you're gonna really like your gift. It's just what you do with the least amount of effort. So, what do I come to tell you today? Is that when you become committed, you become consistent, and it builds your confidence. The main thing that I lay my hat on in this book is this part right here. When God, when you start moving in your purpose, God will change your fragrance while He builds you. What do I mean by that? God will change your fragrance while He builds you. While He builds you in your faith, while He builds you in your character, and while He builds you in your purpose, man. Gotta change your fragrance. It ain't you not. It's not that you're different, but your taste become different. Come here. Huh? You start tasting a little bit different. You want more. You're desiring more. And when you start desiring more, God will give you more. So my question to you tonight, as I asked on last night, what is your gift? Yep, that's what this book is about. Your fragrance. As I titled, and I'm about to shut this off and talk to y'all. We're gonna chop it up. You are the fragrance. That's what I put. You are the fragrance. Go get your book, all that great stuff. But I'm gonna rock out with them real quick as I discuss what is your gift. So my question to you, as you're watching, viewer that may watch this, what's your gift? Write it down. Pray on it. Get committed to it. Get consistent. And watch God build your confidence. And while He's building your confidence, He builds your faith. He builds your character. He's going to stretch you. You're going to want to cry. You're going to want to throw in the towel. But I promise you, one of the things that I talk about in the part is when God builds your faith, when He changes your fragrance, it allows you to stand. I'm going to read this and I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with the live and I'm finna what's the name with y'all. We're finna chop it up. This is one of the things I say. James, write this scripture down. James 1:12. Blessed is the man who remains. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. For when he has stood the test, hey, gotta preach out by himself. He will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those that He loves. Can I read that again before I close out the live part? Listen. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. This is in transition number 9. This is what I talk about in transition number 9 in the book, is that when you stand the test of times, in season, out of season, when it don't look good, if you know that this is what God called you to do, walk in it and do what God called you to do. It's not going to be easy, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And I'm going to show you how in a minute. I'm going to show you what is your gift. Then, when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised him. Every transition, I use a scripture to let you know that this was done then, and God can do the same thing He did then he can do right now, because he's the same God. The same promises he gave Israel is the same promises he gave us. The same can I go to the beginning and I'm done? The same promises he said in Genesis. When what's the song? Let's get back to Eden and live on top of the world. Let me tell you about Eden. Eden was in the beginning in Genesis, where there were rivers, multiple rivers, where the water came up from the ground, that God gave them water. There was no rain into Noah. What does that tell me? With my biblically knows itself, that tells me that God provided everything that they needed through the earth. So I come to tell you, whatever you need, God got it. He started it in the beginning. You think he's gonna quit now? He's the God that make everything that is needed, but it's up to us, Israel, to choose 40 days to get there or 40 years. Which one do you want? So I encourage you. Listen, till next time, love y'all, but I'm gonna rock out with them real quick. Listen, I want to know from y'all,